All right, House of Payne fans. Now, I left this comment on the episode review, and I feel like I can't win with this show. Like, yes, it brings in a lot of views. If I'm not mistaken, that Malik video I did last year about, how Malik looks different in regards to last season when his show came back and people were quick to notice his dramatic weight loss. And that video is what? Less than 40,000 views away from 1 million. Let's get it there. So please, everybody just watch it. Just click on the video one time. I mean, if it gets to 1 million, I got to do something to celebrate. I never thought I'd ever have one video get that far. So yeah. But in any case, anytime, I feel like for the most part, anytime I have strong feelings about an episode, the majority feels the opposite. Like for me personally, I just don't think that last week's episode was a good episode, but everybody, Jeremy, you're off the mark. This was a fantastic episode. It was better than the premiere Whiplash. It felt like it was pulled from the original series and this and that. For me, it just did not hit the mark. I mean, I had my issues with, sorry, I'm popping my knuckles. Go back and watch the review. I can go on and on about why I personally didn't feel like it felt that good of an episode. But this video is specifically talking about Laura and Calvin and the fact that it's confirmed that they are indeed engaged, and, Laura is Calvin's fiance. I mean, yes, in the finale last season, Woman of the Night, we know off screen that Calvin had dinner with Miranda and pretty much explained that he planned on proposing to Laura, but we just didn't know when it was going to happen. Now we know that Whiplash happens less than 24 hours after the season finale, but we don't know the gap in time between Whiplash and A Painful Lesson because of the fact that the engagement happened. So did Calvin just propose that night? I don't know, like, hey, Miranda, I'm going to propose to Laura. So he pretty much lets Miranda know and she gets upset. So does like Calvin just go and do it the next day? I mean, given the fact that CJ was in that awful accident, you would think that, Calvin would get a phone call from either Malik or his parents about it. And, maybe the engagement was something he kind of pushed off until he made sure his cousin was okay. But I honestly have no idea because I mentioned this in my trailer breakdown for this week's episode that it looks like Lisa has an even bigger baby bump, meaning that there's a lot of time that passed between episodes 2 and 3. So it's kind of ironic how this show has so many drastic shifts in the timeline. To an extent, Assist Living does the same thing, but it's like so much time happens in between episodes. But when you look at a show like, let's say, The Oval or The Haves and the Have-Nots, time goes by so damn slow where each season only feels like maybe 2 days or less passes by. But in House of Payne, it feels like months go by within like 3 episodes. But in any case, I wanted to talk about why, even though I don't mind these two being engaged, I wish we would have seen it. The proposal at least, because I don't dislike Laura. I dislike the fact that we've barely gotten to know her. I mean, she's engaged with one of the main characters on the show. And I mean, given the fact that Janine and Jasmine are pretty much not going to be in this season unless they have a sporadic random cameo. And I'm not talking about just being mentioned about, oh yeah, they're doing this. And I mean, like on screen, appearances and whatnot. I just don't know if Laura and Calvin are going to make it. I did a video leading up to this season premiere about how, how is Miranda, like, what's the purpose of Miranda being in the show if Laura and Calvin are engaged? But after the first episode, Whiplash, you're like, oh, wow, it looks like they're definitely revamping a lot of the character personalities and whatnot. Speaking of which, it's like you got Lisa reciting, Shakespeare in this one episode, and she is quote unquote secretly intelligent. And it's like, yeah, don't judge me because I'm a stripper. But then in this upcoming episode, she's thinking that academic probation means that Malik got arrested. See what I mean? Where even though it seems like the show is doing better in some areas, it looks like it's falling back in others. Like and I definitely will save more thoughts and comments on this until after this week's episode. But I feel like even though it seems the show wants to make improvements, I don't feel like this. I feel like the show is going to have an identity crisis, and we're only 2 episodes in, and I think that once the show gets to like a mid-season finale, I don't remember if last season had a mid-season finale. Actually, let me check real quick. I'm going to go ahead and Google it because I can't remember if the show just ran through all the episodes or had a break. So we're talking season 10. Okay, September, October, November. No, it just ran through all the episodes. Yeah, it did. But then again, it was kind of different because I do believe there was a time where both Assisted Living and House of Payne were airing 2 episodes, 2 of each show respectively. So basically a 2-hour block. So it kind of burned through the episodes. But I think they might do it a little differently because of the fact that we know that The Oval's coming back July 20th. House of Payne and Assisted Living come on at 9. So The Oval could be coming on at 8, and then Assisted Living, House of Payne come on at 9. But I think they would probably put the show on a break. I would think they would do that just for the sake of spreading the episodes out to allow, Tyler Perry more time to do more stuff. But remember, he's already filmed The Oval season 3, the next season of House of Payne, and season 3 of Assisted Living. So I don't know how they're going to do it, but let's just assume there's like a mid-season break. How many times we'll actually see Laura? I mean, it seems for the most part she's generally accepted by the family, but I just can't get over the fact that the first time we saw her is when she went over to Curtis and Ellis's house, and then that same night she realizes that Miranda is married to the guy she's dating, and then she decides to walk out on Calvin right then and there. But then the next day goes back to that house to go visit Calvin's parents to get advice. And it's like, I can't even imagine like bringing a girl home for the first time, meeting my folks. Then for whatever reason, she decides to just up and abandon me in my parents' house while they're there during our first meeting. And then all of a sudden randomly go back to my parents' house to get advice from my mom about me. I don't think my mom would like stand for that. And then all of a sudden, I want to get back together with Calvin, and now they're engaged. You see what I mean? It just feels like there's a lot missing. And I feel like even though Laura seems very accepting of Calvin, she thinks it's sweet that, he's trying to do right by her instead of making the same mistakes he did with Miranda, which is commendable, showing growth. But I think seeing a proposal would have been great. Like, for example, him botching things up in the kitchen and whatnot, to make her dinner. I could imagine, like, this is the Payne family. Nothing can ever go right without a hitch. So I feel like what would have been greater if, let's say, Calvin had this elaborate proposal set up and whatnot. I'm not saying Miranda needed to be a part of it, but if Miranda was in the episode or episodes, then it could possibly show character growth for her, showing that she's moved on. Well, not necessarily moved on, but she's more accepting of the fact that Calvin is moving on without her. So it encourages her to move on instead of her pulling like a Myra. I think that's something that happened towards the end of Family Matters, where Myra just kept on conspiring to break up Urkel and Laura, and that made her look like an awful character, even though I was rooting for her and Steve for years. But I think would have been great is like every time it was the perfect time, something would come up and Calvin wasn't able to get the proposal right. But at the end of the episode, he finally gets the ring out and Laura accepts, and then they're engaged. Like I'm saying, maybe it could have been putting together a dinner, but then it's like, oh yeah, I can't cook. Or maybe he wanted to, I don't know, get a band or a banner. This would have been a great time for like Pookie and Peanut to show up to try to help him plan a proposal. But those two, they would screw things up. So I think that would have been great. At least seeing the proposal would make it more accepting, as opposed to Laura just, ba-ba-da-da, hey, I'm here and I'm Calvin's new fiance. It's like, wait, what? So I think that seeing the engagement on screen would have gave these two more, I guess you could say, more context to their relationship. Because you would have Calvin being insecure because, again, he's trying to not make the same mistakes he did with Miranda. Not to mention, like he told Laura, I don't even know what Miranda told you about me. But then we know that Laura said it didn't matter what she heard. She just likes the Calvin that she, or loves the Calvin that she knows in the present, which is great. But I just really wish we got more scenes between these two. So let me know what you think. Do you think that you agree with me that the Laura and Calvin proposal should have been on screen? Or do you even think it matters because deep down you pretty much feel that, you know what, it's going to be redundant because Miranda's probably going to get back to Calvin one way or another? Which I agree with. I would hate for them to go all the way up to the wedding and then you're like, oh no, we're not going to get married or something like that. Because again, even though I liked what they seemingly have done with Miranda in the first episode of the season, if Laura and Calvin get married, what's the point of her being around for? Especially if we're not really going to see her and Calvin's son that much anyway. But I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And as always, feel free to donate to the channel via PayPal or Cash App. Or at the very least, make sure you like and subscribe. Talk to y'all next time.